Yet another day. Headed out, we're going up to Bethel. We're going to go through the forest today and come south, Mount Moriah. We'll do our best to get some clips for you. Last week we had a lot of fog. Today it's a lot clearer, as you can see here, right at sunrise, and should be interesting. On this ride, I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands, picked up the group at the Alden Village Center. We headed out on Fishcreek Blvd, all the way down to Hornier, Raven Chapel, Mill Route to 2854. We filmed until we got into Montgomery. We stopped at Taco briefly, and we continued the filming in the forest, which was kind of a nice addition. The camera ran out of juice on 149. We came down off camera on Bethel South, Johnson Road to Dacus, the Mount Moriah Road. The ride was very fast. It was kind of jumpy, almost like a road race. We had a lot of people that we picked up on the roads that were acting like heroes. And so whenever we had a smooth pace going, they would do these short intervals that it could not sustain. And so the ride was very chaotic, similar to what you find in road racing situations. So I basically did not assist. I just kind of hung in and watched and just stayed with the pace. But I think you will love the clips we put together for you. We have a new view for this one today. We're on the open road. We're at the FM 1488 and Egypt Lane in Montgomery County, Texas. That's Jesus that I'm chatting with. Jesus usually rides with Mo's group, and we picked him up on the road. We're waiting for the light to change, and he was asking about the route. I kind of told him, hey, we're doing a long ride, 80 miles. And he told me that he was only going to go as far as Taco. They've moved the construction over on this side of town. They're adding a center concrete divider and replacing those open turn lanes, which reduces the chances of head-on collisions. But the growth on this side of town has been immense. So they're doing their best to keep up with it.
100 and something on the way. He deserves to have a day off.
It's a bit overcast as we head out. The forecast called for rain around 11, close to 11:30 in the morning, and it came on time. So the last hour of my ride between the woodlands and home, it was torrential rain. Actually felt good because it was heavy rain that cleaned the roads, and the temperature was very warm. As you can see, we're at 22 Celsius. So we got up to like 30, probably 28, 27 Celsius, about 80, 85, something like that. Very mild weather. So it's been a while since I've ridden with Jesus, so we're just kind of catching up. We're talking about the different groups and the different training in the area. So we picked up riders that at this point were not aware that they had been dropped from Mo's group, and then they came to our group and they're just disrupting the pace. And it's really our choice if we follow people like that, because if somebody is coming to your group and they're doing a pace that they can only do for 45 seconds, you don't need to change what your group is doing. Just hold your group pace, because they're not going anywhere. And that's what ended up happening on this ride. There are certain riders that will get to the front, change the pace, but can only do it for 45 seconds, then come back in the group. So why are you disturbing our rhythm? And I talked to Paul about it. I said, we need to stop following the wrong people. We need to just let them go. Because it's just it's an annoyance, because they're doing something they can't sustain. 45 second effort is going to take you where? I mean, come on. You're not sprinting for a finish line. This is an 80-mile ride. So it's just, you know, some people just don't understand the purpose of a group ride. So hopefully we'll get enough people coming out, because my goal is to educate the people who are not familiar with how a group should ride. I've been talking about it for time immemorial in these videos about riding together and so forth. That it's not about your fitness. It's about riding with the group. And if you really fit, then take longer pulls at the group's speed. I already told Paul, I said, we know we can ride with them. We don't need to be disturbing what our plan is when these guys show up. And a lot of them don't even start the ride with us from the beginning. We just happen upon them on the road. You know, so we found out later at the first stop, one of the riders that was with them, her name is Terry, and she let the cat out of the bag. She said, oh yeah, they got dropped in the woodlands at the start of the ride that they were going to do. You know, like then you come over here and want to act like hero. If you're really tough, stay with the group you started with. You get dropped by another group that want to impress you. You're not impressing anybody with a 45-second pull. Big deal. Like I said many times before, you want to impress me, pull for 2 hours. I'll be impressed. They always do stuff they can't sustain. All it does is it breaks up the group, because then the riders who are barely hanging on are struggling so much that they don't enjoy the ride. So don't let them do that to your group. I've already told Paul, you know, we need to decide what we do on the road. It's our choice. Let them ride off for 45 seconds. Let's see how far that takes them. We're doing this for 4 hours. You know, so that's we're gonna have to make that call, because everybody ends up following them. Just let them go. If you're pulling at the front at 20 miles an hour and somebody comes and they can only do 21 miles an hour for 30 seconds, why are you changing your pace? Just keep doing your 20 miles an hour, because you can do that longer. Then they can get their butts back in. So what I was doing in this ride, whenever they would do that, I did not let them get in front of me, because they would do that little jump for a few seconds, then want to come back and slip in like position 4 or 5. I made them go all the way to the back. So you're going to have to come through the group to show off again. I never gave them a gap to get in the line. Let them go to the back. They're up the road now. They didn't wait at the corner. We waited at the corner because it was very busy for some reason. So we're waiting to make sure everybody could get going safely. They're up the road already. And these, one of them did not even start with us. He got dropped from Mo's group in the woodlands before they even started their ride. And then he knowing that when we start, because he's on our board also, he hangs around to wait and then act like he's in a hurry. So he's up the road, and I've started our group, and I'm going to ride up to them, and we'll just kind of merge with them, you know. But at this point, we're just kind of starting our ride. But it's on us to decide not to follow certain people. That's up to us. The onus is on us. That's what Mike Barrera said. He said, you know, nobody wants to ride alone, so everybody starts following, so you just kind of go along. But, you know, at some point we're going to have to decide, okay, take a core number of riders and say, yeah, we're just going to do this, and let the rest of them go. They need to start paying attention to what the ride is about each time they come out. This is what we're doing today, and then you do what the ride is doing. You don't come and try to change the character of the ride. Don't let people hijack your ride. It's your choice who you follow. There's a guy named Greg Schott. He said that. I remember that saying. He said, it's your bike, you pedal it. You decide who you ride with and how fast you go. I hope I quoted him correctly. He's one of our local legends in the area. He's Doug Schott's brother. And it makes perfect sense. I did a ride with them the day after this ride, a nice Sunday cafe ride. We rode for miles in a double pace line in the city on roads that are normally full of cars. But it was a Sunday morning. We took the right lane, the 2-lane boulevards, and everybody was having a nice conversation with who they were riding with. There was no half-wheeling, any of that foolishness. just a very nice ride. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that I rode past my house and rode back into the woodlands with them to the start of the ride and then rode back home. I met a rider from New Jersey that I've added to our chat board that wants to ride with us, a former racer. He wants to get more miles, longer mile volume, he calls it, in his legs. He should be a nice addition. And I will be letting him know how these guys behave, and he can decide on any given ride whether he wants to follow him or not. And that's really what it is. If you're in the mood and you want to follow him, fine. But if you're not, and you have other people that are visiting and don't want to do it, I plan to stay with those people and keep the core group together. Because these guys that do this, they don't show up regularly. They're not reliable. They're like locusts. They go from group to group disturbing it. That's all they are. They have no allegiance to any particular group. So don't let those people that show up fly by night and disturb your group's purpose. So the entire ride was very, very fast, as you're going to see. I mean, we've already finished the descent. The road's flat. We're doing about 45, 46 kilometers an hour. That's almost 28 miles an hour.
Stop it! Stop it!
So,
Guys!
Mike Barrera's chain derails right here. That's what they're calling about. There are some cars, there's some trucks parked on the right side of the road up ahead. So we go around them and get off the road briefly. Then he comes and he says he got it back on. And it's unusual for that to happen to him because he's using a one by. So I'm not sure what happened to him. It was something unusual. So I stopped right over there so everybody can pull in here, get off the road. So that was Frank saying Mike had a chain drop.
Mike had a mechanical.
Who dropped the chain?
I'm trying to make sure we're all back. That's why you see me. I'm going to look back again. I want to make sure everybody's here. Make sure he's back. I'm asking the pirate if he's back.
Is he back? He's back! Chains. Yeah.
You could drop a chain off.
Yeah, I said I didn't know one buy you would drop a chain. It's not easy to drop a chain off of a one buy because the chain usually drops when you're going from big to small. But it's probably something unusual. Maybe there was a bump back there he hit or something. Who knows? Sometimes when the angle of the chain is a little off, it's the same thing on the double. When you're going from big to small and you're all the way up in towards the bike, the angle can cause that front to be a little wobbly. So maybe that was something like that going on. But whatever it was, he got it sorted. He didn't have any more problems. I'm sure he'll figure out what caused it and sort that out. Mike's pretty handy with his bike. And every rider should have a general understanding of, you don't need to be a mechanic, but you need to at least be able to do a few things, change your flat tire, or basic stuff like that, so you're not always dependent on the bike shop. So that way when you're on the road, you can get back to riding. There are certain basic things you should be able to do or at least understand, because these bikes take us far away from home. That's Logan in front of me in the black and red kit. So whenever you're riding in the bunch, regardless of, like, we're going 23 miles an hour or so, which is pretty good clip for this 1.0. This is a false flat. Kind of, if you look on the route at the top, you can see we're beginning to go up. That's why we like to go north from our area. But you want to stay close to the wheel you're in front of. You don't need to necessarily keep your eye on the wheel the whole time. You want to be scanning. You can see I'm drifting a little to the left. I want to look around, Logan, to see what's happening up front so you can kind of react smoothly. Because everything you're doing impacts the people behind you. You're not just riding for you. Avoid saying hold. That does not work. At a ride on Sunday, everybody was yelling hold, hold. Just point to it. You know, that's something people are not aware of. It shows inexperience. You don't need to be doing yelling, because all you're doing is startling the other riders. We're already in the intersection. I did that so everybody would know we're going through, and including the car on the right. But what I was saying is that if you see an obstacle, point to it or ride away from it. But don't do sudden movements at the last minute. Don't swerve around a can at the last minute, because the people following you will not be able to do that, because you want to drift and kind of gradually move away if you don't point. That way they can see that, oh, okay, you're moving. They'll be able to see the obstacle. But you don't be yelling. You know, other than car back, car up, don't be yelling, because when you yell, you're startling everybody. Everybody thinks it's an emergency or some urgency, you know. And they can't understand the words. They just hear the loud call. So resist the urge. Other than saying car back, car up, or if there's a mechanical, you say flat tire or something like that. So when you yell, people think that it's something unusual, and that way they know, okay, let's back off, let's see what's going on so we can stop. So pointing out obstacle is not something unusual. So do that with gestures so that everybody keeps riding. I hope that makes sense. So a flat tire and other stuff, yeah, you got to call that out. So only call out the unusual so that people can back off the pace knowing that something's up. So don't call out holes, because there are holes galore on any road. And if nobody knows where the hole is when you say hole, it's useless. And it causes a disruption in the pace. So point to it. Point to any obstacle. Rocks, whatever. Point. It's quieter, it's better. And it shows that you're in the know, so to speak. Riding around yelling in the morning is not necessary. There are a lot of surges. I want you to pay attention to the wattage. You're going to see it go 300 something, 100 something, because there's a lot of change. It's not a smooth pace. That's what I'm talking about. It disrupts those who are barely hanging on. Every time you rev it up, they're going anaerobic. And they can only do so many of those based on their fitness level. That's the reason it's done in road races, to tire people out. In a group ride, you want to keep it smoother to encourage people to hang in.
Yes, sir. How are you, sir? I'm good, and you? No complaint. All right. Glad to be here. All right. Good to have you, man.
There's a red light, so we stop for it. It changes, and now we're going to go. Now watch the watts, because somebody at the front decides it's a sprint. Over 500 watts. Briefly, I saw there. That 5 something. That's hard on riders who can't do that proficiently. It empties their tank. It's inefficient. So you do enough of those, and you know, on an 80-mile ride, after a while they're like, forget you, I'm not riding with you. That's what ends up happening. And then chances are they won't come back. But we have a lot of people in the area that are clueless about that. They're oblivious to it. They don't care about anybody but themselves. They're self-centered cyclists. They come out thinking they're putting on a show. They actually end up looking worse than what they're trying to portray, because it just shows that you have no idea. Because if you're only doing it for 15 seconds, what's the point of that? Then you want to come back in the very group that you disturbed. I've talked about it before. That's like just decoupling the engine from a train and then going back in the following cars when there's no engine attached. And it happens a lot. We'll have somebody at the front be pulling, a nice steady pace. There's always somebody comes on the left to sit there. You've seen them sit on the left for a while, then sprint up the hill. What is that about? If you're feeling that good, help the group you're riding with. Do that crap, do it alone. They're looking for an audience. So I ignore them completely because they're clueless. They think they know, but they really don't. My thing is if somebody doesn't know and they admit that I don't know and they seek out the information, I will gladly educate them. It's the one that acts like they know, but they have no idea that they don't know, but they're portraying themselves as knowledgeable. And I just chuckle because it's clear to people who know when you don't know something. You walk up to somebody who's well-versed in a subject and want to act like you know, it doesn't take them but a few words from your mouth to know that you're full of BS. In any subject, think about it. Doesn't matter what it is. The people who know, they'll spot you right away. You can't bluff them. I don't care how many buzzwords you think you know. Because why would you want to weaken the very riders that could help you do this 80-mile ride? Think about it. If that's the case, then you do the 80 miles by yourself. Why come to a group ride and not ride with the group? What was the purpose of you showing up? That's what we call them, heroes. It's a sarcastic use of the word, of course. And that's from racing. Call them heroes. They don't accomplish anything. They think they're accomplishing something, but they're not. You see, we've slowed down now. They're tired. Whoever was doing that is tired. So there's a lull in the pace. So what ends up happening most of the time in these rides like this, there's a lot of braking. Because after the 15 or 30-second effort, they have to back off. So then everybody brakes. Because why should the next guy go there so you can come change the pace again? No, you sit up there, Mr. Hero. So when they're done with their 15 or 30-second effort, the pace slows way down and we bunch up. And everybody's braking. Then you hear woo, all the disc brakes or whatever. And even the rim brakes was making noise on this ride because of the moisture in the air. So instead of us doing a steady speed, we're yo-yoing back and forth like we have no purpose. Please. Waste of energy. So when I'm pulling at the front and somebody comes and does that, I keep doing what I was doing. I ignore them. But what ends up happening is the rest of the riders come around you and they go, and most of the time I let them go. You guys hear me all the time. I let the group go, whatever. I let them go. We're on the hill now. We're not really going hard right here, but at the top, the same foolishness that they do, they wait till they get to the top and they start accelerating. Well, we're still on the hill. So we got to put our bigger watts down here. You can see I'm over 500 watts and the hill is pretty much finished, but still because someone accelerated on the downhill and we're like a third of the way in a bunch. So we have to work harder. So if you're not fit, it wears you out. And what ends up happening, if you wear somebody out, why should they pull? So when they're done, everybody slows down and waits and says, well, go again. They did all of that. Now look, this is what I'm talking about. We're slowing down. You can see I'm not even pedaling, as opposed to just keeping a steady pace. So I'm emphasizing this because these so-called fast groups are not necessarily very efficient. Now, doesn't apply to all fast groups. I've ridden with Mo's group. Whatever they're doing, they keep doing it. It is fast. Like I told you about the guys that are here messing around, acting like heroes, that got dropped from Mo's group. Those guys will hold their pace the whole time. Meaning, if somebody's doing 24 miles an hour in Mo's group, When he or she pulls off, the next guy will be doing 24 miles an hour. They ride like that. They'll do 100 miles in 4.5 hours or some ridiculous amount of time like that. I'm talking on this very day, they did 100 miles in the same area we headed to because they ride together. So they're trying to, they don't go to the front and do 35 miles an hour for 30 seconds. They do what they know they can pull for as long as they're going to pull. So if it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes, they get up there and they pull. And that's what drops our heroes. Then they want to come to our group to do 10-second pulls. Because they can't drop us. So, 10-second pull, who are you going to drop? You can't drop us. So we just sit on them. But it ends up disturbing our group because our riders that are not as strong have to work so hard for these guys who are not even doing the whole ride. A lot of them don't even do the whole ride. Halfway they turn around. So they just come and disrupt the pace. That's why we call them heroes. No purpose. Heroes with asterisks. So when they're doing that, I just sit in the wheels. That's all you see me doing here. I don't put my nose in the front. You want to go to the front and do it. The other thing I do is when they pull off, I have mentioned it earlier. When they pull off, I don't let them back in the line in front of me. Other people do. I make them go to the back. So you want to do your show again, come all the way through the group and show us. So all I'm doing, basically, I'm putting out what I call minimal effort. You will see down here on the downhill, Paul's gonna come. That's Paul coming here in front of me. I don't even pedal much. Look at my RPM. Look at the watch. See, it's 0 right now. I descend really fast. I don't really need to get in a tuck or anything. So I just don't even bother spending any energy here. I'm doing over 30 miles an hour. We're going down this hill. The other way is like 5.5%. And so free speed, I'm not wasting any energy. So the whole time they were doing all of this, I wasn't doing much work. That's what we call minimal effort. But I don't help them. I'm not taking a pull. You want to show me you're a hero, you will do it. Let's see if you can do it for 80 miles. There's nothing wrong with riding fast in the group. What I need to stress is this. The people that I'm talking about is they come to the ride, they make an effort, then they turn around to look to see who got dropped. That's what I can't stand. That's what I mean when I say they come and hijack your ride. They're here, they're trying to break up the rhythm of your group. I'm sure you have them in your area, and you have to decide not to follow them, or if the pace is tolerable for you or your group, don't help them. Sit on them. And then when they pull off, don't let them back in the front. Make them go to the back. Keep all the wheels tight. Close all the gaps. Force them to the back. So let them come through the whole group. See how badly they want to do that 15-second effort again. Because whatever they're doing, they can't ride away from you. They're looking for an audience. That's all it is. So don't tell them good pull, whatever, because it's not a good pull. It's actually a dumb pull. If you can only do 15 seconds, why are you up there? Sit your butt in the line and do a pace you can do longer. They're trying to put on a show, and that's supposed to make them what? Please. So we found out when we got to the store that they had been dropped while the other group was warming up. And that's how they ended up on the highway. We came across them. They don't want to come here and put on a show. And it was one of the people that were riding with them, my name's Terry, that spilled the beans. They're lucky I wasn't standing there because I heard it later. Because you know me, I don't pull any punches. I would have let them know. You want to impress me after you want to impress us after you got dropped from another group. That nonsense happens everywhere. Like when you have an A, B, C group, it's the same nonsense. They get dropped from the A group, they want to come to the B group to do what the A group was doing that they couldn't do. And then later in the ride, one of them didn't even know where we were going because he had no intention of riding with us. He never looked at the route, even though he's on the board. He never looked at the route, had the nerve to ask me where we're going. Please. This was not your plan. You know, your plan was to ride with the other group. You couldn't handle that pace. Instead of finding out what we're doing, you want to come in here and act like you some kind of world tour rider. The world tour riders, when they attack, they ride away. They don't attack and sit up unless the team manager tells them to wait for somebody. So you want to be a world tour rider, you better do it the right way. Otherwise, cut out that shenanigan. You're not going to win no race with a 15-second attack. It's always the people who never did it that want to act like they're racers. Because racers don't ride like that. I met a guy on Sunday. I put him on our board. His name is Ed from New Jersey. And we were riding for in excess of 15 miles. We were pulling like 20, 21. He's new to the area, but he was constantly asking me, are we going too fast? Because it was a cafe ride. Do you think we're going too fast? And I had to tell him, no, we got the wind behind us now. This is on the return. Because when we're going into the wind. He's new to the area, but he was cognizant about the purpose of the ride on Sunday. That's what we can't get our locals to be aware of. Yeah, what I'm talking to Paul about, somebody kind of did something dangerous and Paul adroitly avoided it. And so I told him, Terminator, I saw what happened. Good job. Somebody just changed their line drastically, and he avoided it without even looking like he was trying to avoid it. So we constantly work on our handling skills. When I'm riding with the group, I don't bother other people who are inexperienced. I don't make them uncomfortable. What I do is I watch them like a hawk. I watch everybody. But it is my responsibility to protect my front wheel. It does not matter what the skill of the rider is. I have to protect my front wheel. That's my responsibility. You don't need to be bothering people. Oh man, you're doing that. Unless they're doing something dangerous, and then you just kind of pull them to the side and just talk to just them. Don't make it a big public issue. Don't embarrass the rider. You know, just let them know, hey man, you know, do this, whatever. They'll appreciate it. Don't make a big show of it. So you compliment them for what they are doing right and just say, hey man, you need to watch that because it might cause this and this. They'll appreciate it. I don't give much advice on these rides. I just kind of watch and I just observe. And I only talk to people I talk to riders that seek out the information. And if they approach me and they have a question and they're genuine, I'll fill in the gaps. I don't volunteer information to people who act like they already know, because those are the people that can't learn. They think they know what they're doing. They're going to have to learn by trial by fire. At this point in the ride, I guess the tanks of the heroes are a little empty because the ride just seemed to get a lot easier. We're going to be turning. You see how I go on the outside? And I got nobody in front of me. I'm in a big gear, and I just stand up to keep it rolling. You saw the watts go up. Because if you're following some people that let too much of a gap open around corners, I'm not sure why. We're descending here, and the power's off. The heroes are catching their breath. That's my assessment anyway. I'm looking between the wheels. I watch the other side of the road. I look across the way, and there's no car coming because I'm going to use the other side in this increasing radius turn here. You see where I am? I take the line. Look at how much I will move up in the group. At least 3 riders without expending a lot of energy, simply by taking the right line. And the reason I'm doing that is there's a turn coming, and a lot of guys like to sneak off. There's a turn at Mill Route in the distance. We're going to be turning left. So a lot of guys will carry a wide line, get a bit of an advantage, and then make you have to work really hard to get on the wheel. You will see. I don't really worry about it. I just spin whatever gear I'm in. I don't worry. It's not that big a deal. It goes up to maybe 2.5%. But it's a hard enough road to where when it start that, when the grade hits, they slow down anyway. You end up, what you will see, there will be a split. You can see there's a bit of a split. Champoussin here never really quite sits on the wheels like he should. I don't like to follow him. He's one of these riders that just leaves a gap like he's scared of the wheel. We're going to be turning. You'll see the gap open again. I moved to the other side. You saw me look. I moved to the outside so I can take a nice line. There's always crap on that corner, like pine needles and whatever, so you got to watch that. You don't want to lean too much. And you see, Champoussin again is leaving a gap. You see? Laura's sitting on his wheel, but there's a gap because he wasn't staying on my wheels. Like, he's too tentative in the pace line. Look at the gap. He was right behind me a second ago, and now they got this gap. Now they got to work to close it. We're separated right now. That's Jesus. And you see Laura smartly moves up and gets on the faster wheel, Jesus' wheel. Because Champoussin just leaves gaps. You work too hard when you do that. I mean, you're on the wheel watching it go away from you, then you come back and chase it. If you're going to ride with the riders, just stay on the wheel. When you decide to leave them, then leave it. Be done. You will see the watts go up. The road goes up here, close to 2% or so. Mike's looking for a gap so he can slip back in the line.
Yes, sir.
I don't know why people like to talk in the pace line. For me, I ignored them. This is not the time to say hi. If we're riding, just ride. When we're in the parking lot, you should have said your good mornings. I had another guy, we're coming down, what's the road? We're coming down Capitol Hill. Wants to thank me for putting the ride together. I didn't even look at him. You know, it's like, this is not the time to talk about that crap. When we get to the store, you can say that. They always do that nonsense. See you working, you riding. I don't want to talk to you. I want to ride. I want to focus on what I'm doing. I want to chat. Not the time to talk. I want to thank me for putting the ride together. We appreciate your hard work. I did not even turn my head. That's how crashes happen. Looking around, foolishness. Then they want to blame other riders. It's your responsibility to protect your wheel. The only way you can do that is to pay attention. Like you hear these commentators, oh, there's a touch of wheels. The pros. I'm like, please. They're pros, they fall like a bunch of chickens. That's what happens. A slight inattentiveness will cause you to go down. Doesn't take much. I don't get on my bike to go fall. I get on my bike to go ride. Bike actually looks good. I don't know why. I'm gonna start riding the orange bike more often. It's been sitting around too long. It looks really good. So somebody turned up the power here. You can see the watts. Now all I do is I just push harder. I don't even downshift. I'm using the same gear and I just turn it. And as soon as we get up the hill, he's going to turn up the power right here. Somebody's going to come on the left. Actually, yeah. So that's Dan Jaworski has gone on the left. This is the guy in the middle who was doing the interval. Now he blocked Laura after people go around. He wants to take a break and nobody's waiting for him. So Laura's going to go on the right. I'm going to get on Laura's wheel. He's in the way. His interval's over and we're not letting him rest. Does that crap every time the road goes up. He wants to do an interval for 2 seconds. We're going to do it for 5 miles. We get to the corner. It's clear. I'm gonna get on the curve on the shoulder right there. I'm using tubular tires on this ride, and I'm telling you, the ride is unparalleled. If you've never tried it before, it's not something that you try. It's kind of like it requires a lot of work. You got to glue them, or some people use tape. I use glue, but I'm telling you, nothing rides like them. They inspire a lot of confidence. I'm using Continental competition tires. They're not cheap, but they're worth it. You feel every inch of the pavement. It lets you know what's going on. You have a lot of confidence, especially when you're cornering. Those Germans, they know how to make tires, among other things. I mean, I like them so much, I would love to train on them all the time, but it's not practical for that. So I saved them for bigger rides. This is a slight grade. It's like a false flat. So let's say maybe 1% average or 1.5. So this ride, this was like, I think this was the fastest stretch, but it stayed fast even after we left Taco. Yeah. The ride was very fast. In fact, Strava said that it was my second fastest 100K, meaning 62 miles. The second fastest 62 miles. I'm sure the fastest 62 miles was probably something I did with more than many years ago. We used to ride with Mo's group. But this was fast. So my form is coming along very well. The dilemma of my group is that the slow riders are not showing up because of the rumor that's out in the area. Oh, the group is so fast. We're not the fastest group. We're a fast group. You know, but nobody wants to come, and so we don't have a reason to break up the group, you know. Dan Jaworski. Dan is getting, they're making a kit for Dan and Abby. They're getting our kits custom made for them. Should be here in about 5 weeks. So probably early December. We're doing almost 40K, and this road is not flat. We have a few riders that spend quite a large portion of the ride at the back. You saw Dan Jaworski just pulled off. Well, he'd been pulling, so he went all the way to the back because he had been working. So he will end up missing the light at the bottom of the hill that's coming up, but it was because he had just finished pulling. But he was with a few other guys that always just spent time at the back, because they don't like the pace or whatever their reasoning is. Well, what I'm getting at is if you're always at the back, sometimes you miss some cuts, and most times you will miss action in like a fast ride, like when people attack at the front or whatever and there are splits. You're just at a disadvantage trying to close that. That's the thing about being at the back. It's not always easy back there, because after we crest a climb and we start to go, you're still on the climb. You got to work hard. I look at my mirror, it's clear, so I took the lane. And this is when we're gonna see that it's green, and I'm just gonna continue riding. We don't often get a green light here. And as we hit the intersection, it goes yellow. And that's when there's a split. I am not aware, I just keep riding until Mike Barreras comes and says half of the group didn't make the light. We have a green light, so as we hit it, it becomes yellow right here. And I'm carrying so much speed. I'm doing 31 miles an hour, and I just go ahead and go by the guy in front, the guy in yellow. I just go by as he's slowing down. And then Mike Barrera is going to come and let me know that there are people back there. So I go ahead and back off and wait for them. He said the group has split. Because we're ready to ride. He said people are back there, so I go ahead and wave them up. So I'll go ahead and back off, and I'm going to wait for them. But they took a while to get going. I mean, it didn't come close to me until I was almost at Taco. I don't understand. Our light is not that long, but it took them a while. So the guy in the yellow is, instead of riding with Kenny and them, he wants to get up there on his own. And he does not have the power. At some point, spinning a little gear is not enough. You got to push. You see those two guys ride by him? They're going to ride up to Laura and whoever's up there with her. He's still going to be in no man's land. So Kenny just continues to pull the group back here. Because this whole stretch we've been riding hard. So it would have served him better to ride with these guys. Now they've come and passed him. He never made it to these guys. But they look like they've turned off the power or what? I don't know. I guess the power's off. Taco Corner is about probably 1,000 meters down the road. And if you look at my speed, I'm back there soft pedaling, waiting for those guys. I still can't see them. It took them a while before they got within sight. And, you know, maybe it was the light, I don't know, but so Paul will film until we get the taco, and then we're gonna switch to when we're leaving taco.
Happy birthday! Yeah.
So this is after the stop. We're leaving Taco.
They get into conversation, they forget that they have to ride.
Yeah, they've been talking for a while, and we're just spending too much time there. I just started to go. They got the message. It's time to go. We've been sitting there too long. I had taken my glasses off because it was just full of mist.
Tells everybody the life story. It's like, oh, please.
This is when we learned that these guys who were pushing the pace had gotten dropped while Mo's group was warming up. They're lucky I wasn't standing there. Oh man. A lot of times the reason they're getting dropped is because every ride they ride the same speed. They never recover. So Mike Barra is ahead because when it was time to go, he said, let's go. And people still standing around, he started going. So he's up ahead. We're heading into the forest. This is 1097. I love these roads. You're out of town. They just paved this section recently. They should have made it a little wider, but. So what I was saying earlier is these guys ride the same speed all the time, so they plateau. So they're not getting any faster, because every time they get on the bike, they act like it's a race. They don't know how to train. If you're riding with somebody who just has, let's say, a higher talent level and if trained properly, every time you ride with them, whatever speed they may be doing, they might be in their aerobic zone while you're maybe near your threshold or whatever. So you don't want to ride with them except for the days when you're doing that kind of work, because for them it's easy, but for you it may not be, you know. As a result, you end up pedaling squares. You're always riding over your head and this and that. And you're not going to teach your body anything. You've got to wait till your form comes in and ride within yourself. So we just left the store. Whenever we leave the store, for me, we just left the store. I try to kind of wake my body back up But these guys are very impatient. In a little bit, I think Kenny and Shempusan will come and pass. I'm just going to ride up to them and sit on their wheels. And we have a lot of people in the group, you'll see an example of it, that when they take over for their pull, they act like they're going for the the World Cup or something. They act like it's a race. Instead of taking over at a reasonable pace, they take over at a pace that exceeds what they can hold comfortably. I thought it was Shempusan, but no, it's Kenny and Juan. So what happens is, I'm gonna ride up, I'm gonna look in my mirror first to see if anybody else will be coming. Once I see nobody's coming, I'm gonna lift my pace. You will see the watts go up because the road goes up, and plus I stand. When you stand, that's the way a bike's supposed to move. You don't need to be fishtailing and making an S. The line that you carry, that bike is moving side by side, but it's straight. We have a lot of riders that stand and they move all over the place and they end up bothering riders that are next to them. You should be able to stand, and even though the bike is moving, it's still tracking on a straight line. That's what you work. Those are the things you work on when you get on your bike every day. It's not just about putting your head down and going as hard as you can. You need to work on your skills. So the entire time here, I'm looking around those two riders to make sure, you see my head to the side, I'm looking around them on the right so I can see what's coming. Because they're not calling out obstacles. There's a piece of wood on the road there. When you're pulling your group, you need to call out obstacles. Quit riding above your head to where you're cross-eyed at the front, because it is your responsibility to make sure your group does not run into hazards. Now I want you guys, maybe now it's not a good spot. Anyway, we're going to be going into the forest soon. And I want you to watch the watts. Maybe the watts will be better than my heart rate. I want you to see how much the effort is going to change when Kenny is done pulling. See, Kenny has pulled off. Look at the watts. Immediately I was 330 watts. Now it's 3 something. Because we got a hero at the front who wants to show off. He's not pulling at the same effort Kenny was. You can see how much of a gap we put on Paul, because the pace is not steady anymore. And then he's all over the road, which tells me out of this bike handling or the effort level or whatever, you can tell when a rider is just turning himself inside out, and I'm not sure why. And these are the riders that have no idea about cycling etiquette. They get a big head thinking they're strong and that all that matters, and it's not. So I want you to just watch. I have my bike in a large gear, and I'm just turning because it's like what 2%. It's not that bad. You see how the power is flickering all over the place. We're not riding steadily. That's the first signal. We're going to be turning left on Mount Pleasant. I pointed at that car because a lot of riders try to cut corners sometimes. And I wanted them to make sure they knew something was coming in that lane, not to get in there. I'll go ahead and increase my pace here because I believe we're coming across Mike Barreras, who had left a little earlier. Well, he left when we said we were leaving. So everybody lounging around. You said let's go, people still standing around. Finding the road, the smoothest parts of the road. This road has a lot of patina, and so the good thing about having good condition is that you don't have to be in the draft the whole time, because sometimes it's better to just do your own line. Especially we're at the front here, so yeah, it's not that big a deal, but when you're further back, sometimes it's good to just be a little off to the side when it's very bumpy, so you can see where these ruts are. So the pace is not smooth. There's a lot of little surges, little accelerations. You know, it's 350 watts because the road going up a little bit with 2%, not 475. That's a big jump as opposed to keeping it maybe 275 to 3 something, keeping it in the same range. That lets you know when people are doing things to where they're trying to make other riders struggle. And that's not smooth, because the problem is when you're done with that, nobody else is going to come to the front. But we got a few riders that do that crap all the time, thinking they're going to drop somebody. Please. You're going to have to do 1,000 watts to drop any decent rider for some time anyway. So I'm just sitting on the wheel here, and as soon as he shows a little bit of weakness, I'm going to go by just to keep his pace the same, and it's going to open a gap on him. I'm not really trying to gap him, but he slows down because right now he's looking for power. See him standing, doing like he doesn't want to get off the front. He's looking for power. You can't, if it's not there, it's not there. You can arch your back, do whatever. You don't have it, you don't have it. So I'm watching the whole time, just watching. I want to keep his same pace. We're just going to keep going, hoping that maybe he'll learn, but he's not going to. He's going to come back around, do the same thing again, and then slow down again. I will walk you through it. Because if you keep it steady, riders that are hanging on, they have hope. So I think somewhere around here, he starts to slow down, because I'm watching, and you can feel, when you're following somebody, you can feel them slow because their wheel starts coming back to you. So I move left so I don't run into him, because he slowed down. He slowed down, the road's going up. It's not that much. It's like 2%, 3%. I didn't realize it was that high. But look at how much of a gap we opened. This is his pace. I didn't change the pace. So he waits. He didn't like that grade. And I'm keeping it steady. He still doesn't get it. My idea is let's keep it steady. Let's keep the group moving. So now it's steady. What does he do? He comes back around. So if you could do that, why did you slow down back there? That's the stuff I'm talking about. And these are the riders that think they know. They think they're doing something. But you notice I watch him. I don't change what I'm doing. I keep riding. His buddy gonna come join him in a little bit. And basically they go nowhere. You see he's right there. That's what I'm talking about. They're doing things they can't sustain, but for 5 to 10 seconds, and they think that makes them a strong rider. Please, if you open a gap, ride away. Why open a gap and sit up? You can see we're right on them, and I'm just going to keep riding. And when we'll hit the next hill, and then they'll spread out and slow down. And the reason I'm explaining this is why our group constantly, people are braking, because we get these guys that come to the front, disrupt the pace, can't sustain it, and so the people that come up behind them have to hit the brakes. I don't like to do that. I just go around them. So right now they're in my way. They were doing all of that and went nowhere. And look at how I'm pedaling versus how the guy on the right. I mean, he's searching for power. He's standing, he's doing. Now they turn off the power, but they're in the way. It's like you're done pulling. Paul told one guy one time, you're done pulling, get out of the way. So what do? I resume what I was doing up there before they came with that nonsense. That's my point. So I don't say anything. I show it by how I ride. Whether they get it or not, it's their issue. That's what I wanted to explain. That's the guy on the left who always does that foolishness, and then he would turn around and go home. As soon as we get out of he never finishes the ride. So I ignored him. I don't waste my time. Now look, he did that, and now he's slowed down. So Laura has to go around him. So look, we're not in a pace line. You see what I'm talking about? Oh, look at all the gaps. And these the so-called riders. Please. Wasting energy. So when they're not doing this, they're sitting on the left like last week. Those of you who saw last week's video, it's the same guy up there that was sitting on the left next to Frank, and Frank was pulling for miles on end. He was sitting on the left, wasting energy in the wind. I don't know if that's a show that's supposed to impress somebody or what. That's what I'm talking about. If you're riding with a group, the whole point of riding with a group, when you're not pulling the group, you sit in there so you can rest and recover so that your quality is good when you get to the front. That's what they don't get. So that when they say they're going fast, it's just average. I was riding in zone 2 and they couldn't even get away. That's, you know, what they don't know, but they think they know. I just look at them, I just smile. I think I'm sitting right behind Paul. I just sit and I watch. Because what I do is when they come and do stuff like that, I keep the same pace because I know they can't maintain it, and we come right back up on them. Then when you come and catch it, then they accelerate again for another 10 seconds. They think they're doing something. There's a group in the area called Friends of Friends, and that's where a lot of these guys came from. And they're like, that's how they ride. They think they're doing something. Please. When you open a gap, you need to work the gap. You don't open a gap and lose the gap. That's a waste of energy. You're going to open the gap and keep going and work that gap. Otherwise, sit in or pull the group. I'm sitting in the back watching them at this point. I'm like, minimal effort. Because too bad the camera went off. Because when we got in the forest, when we hit the 7% climb, all the pulsers were shot out the back. I call them pulsers because it's just a show and there's no substance. I hope that makes sense. You know, when Pojika attacks, he doesn't sit up to wait for people unless he's waiting on his teammate. He goes, he's gone. When Bernard Hinault used to attack, he would take off and ride a whole stage sometimes by himself. That's an attack. If you're not going to do that, why are you wasting the energy? You're not at the finish line. So what's the point of that? So that tells me it's just a show. It's like, oh, look how strong I am for 10 seconds. Big deal. You're going to attack right off. Go in the distance. Go, do it for 20 miles. You know. But they can't ride off if people want to follow them and they act like they're doing something. So it's like, I don't know. All it does is disrupt our steady pace. But they have no idea what a steady pace is. I told you guys about the guy I waited for a few weeks back, trying to pull him back, and he kept accelerating. I asked him, I said, what are you trying to do? I said, you can't catch them and you can't drop me. So what are you trying to do? He had no idea what he was trying to do. He couldn't answer me. I could tell by the look on his face, he didn't expect that question. I'm like, what are you trying to do? He didn't know what he was trying to do. That's just how he rides, because of the people he rides with. So you got to be careful who you follow, man. You got to be careful who you get advice from. You got to go online and research and get advice from people who know, so you can do things the proper way. You know, it's like you need to ride with your group instead of this hot dog nonsense. This part of the road has been scraped up. I'm hoping they're going to refinish it, because that's usually what they do. I don't know what Roy is doing up there. There's another hero. He comes up and then he sits right. So what are you doing? Instead of us having a pace down, we're all over the lane. Like, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. No organization here. You see Mo's group, they're tight. They got a formation. Somebody's pulling, they're done, they pull off, the next guy takes over. These guys come on our ride and they're like a bunch of fleas all over the road. It's annoying. They think they're doing something. That's what I meant. I posted on the board a few weeks ago. I said, we don't ride together. They don't have a clue what riding together means. And then as soon as we get out of the forest, you're going to see them on film. They're going to be going home. This is halfway into the ride. They're going home. Because of all this waste of energy, you can't do it for 80 miles. So Paulie Longa is going to ride, because these guys now, what happened is they're behind each other. The other guy was to the right. He wasn't even on the wheel. Paul comes up to them. They're going slower than he's going. So he just comes to the front, comes around them. Because they do all of that and they go nowhere. That's the point I was making. He's not attacking them. He's just riding. And he passes them without going very hard. We call those, that's what we call it, foo-foo moves. It's like, it's fluffy. There's no substance. I mean, you did all of that. This guy's just continuing his casual pace and he comes and passes you. Now they're going to come back again. And we're going to, when we exit here, we're going to be exiting on a road called Hidden Forest Road. This is Terry. Terry and I think Kenny. There are two people who are going to call out and let the guy in the front, let him know, hey, wait till everybody's here at the turn. Because it's a good sized group. He acts like he doesn't hear it and continues riding. He heard it. I know he heard it. Because I had turned myself. You will see me turn. I took the inside line. He heard it, but he wants to put on a show, going nowhere. And that kind of foolishness in the future, we'll just let him go. Ride by yourself, since you're not riding with us. Because the group is all broken up. As you saw in the front, it's the same thing happening in the back because of all these little accelerations. Not everybody can keep up with that. So we're trying to regroup here. There he is now.
Oh, wait, Peter, everybody here?
You hear that? He heard that. Does that crap all the time. He's the one that got dropped from Mo's group. She was the one that told us that he got dropped from Mo's group, then comes over here and want to act like. I don't have time for that. I'll just ride. I'm making sure we all get back together here. I'm going to reach for water and then drift to the right so they can come around. See, so the guy said now we're all together. Now this other one is another one putting on a show. I don't even know his name. He's gonna be turning in about half a kilometer to go back home, and he's acting like he's Superman. Hadn't taken a pole the whole ride, sitting in the back sucking wheel, and he does that. Like we're supposed to be impressed, please. So that kind of stuff you ignore it. Too many clueless riders. And that's the stuff that discourages other riders from coming to ride with us because of all these shenanigans. They come and disrupt the pace and then turn around and go home halfway into the ride. I already told Paul, we talked about it. I told him, I said, at some point we're going to have to let these guys go and we form our base group. because I don't have the patience to ride with clueless riders. It's annoying because they're learning nothing. They do the same crap every week. You know, some people learn by observing what others are doing, not these guys. They did all of that, wasted all this energy. There's the other one up there. Now he's turning. I'm going to tell him you're going the wrong way. And I'm not sure what Terry stopped on the corner for.
Oh, I was following Peter. Where's everybody else going?
Adios, pendejo.
So I told him back there, I said, you're going the wrong way. It's 2 hours into the ride, they're going home. After all that nonsense. That's another reason we shouldn't waste our time following them. Just hold our pace. So I'm sitting right behind Paul. He's gonna ride up. We're gonna get back up to the group and continue. So for your group, make sure that you focus on what the goal is. If you're having a cafe ride and somebody comes and they want to change the character of the ride, ignore them. Let everybody else know we're not following him or her. And you guys hold that. For this Saturday group, we pretty much let everything go. You know, it's kind of like a road race kind of pace. But I don't take a pull. I just sit on them. I sit and I watch. That's it. And what I explained today is what happens. They cannot sustain the stuff that they start. And then these are the same people that will go around complaining when Mo would join our group. Oh, Mo is here. Well, the thing is, Mo doesn't do anything differently than what they do. But what Mo does do is, if you start doing 25 miles an hour, he's not doing it for 10 seconds. He might be doing it for an hour or however long. That's what they complain about, because there's no sitting up. He gets in there and it's just a steady pace. Because you started that pace, he continues whatever the group was doing. And they can't do that, as you saw today. That's the thing. And that's what we're going to do here. So as I get fitter, when they do that nonsense, we'll keep it going longer. They're going to be turning to go home earlier each week until they learn. So hopefully at some point they will receive the information. But this is part of what we did on Saturday. I don't know what you did, but it was a very, very fast ride. And just serious clip. So right here is a lot steadier because all the yahoos are gone. We got a few left, but most of them are gone. And that's why it's steadier. So it's a more civilized ride. I mean, we still had surges when we got into the forest, you know, the hills and so forth, but we had people taking much longer pulls down. Once the group settles into the core group, people are riding sensibly. And what you saw in the forest there a second ago was they get to the front, one's on the right, one's on the left. They're not even following each other. They're all over the road, and they're just in the way. And we just continue to go and do it. That's what we're going to have to do, is keep our pace. Because whatever they do, they can't sustain it. So we don't need to be chasing them. Just keep our pace steady. That's it. So remember, get your K's in and keep every doctor fired.